Welcome back to Bazooka Kickboxing and MMA. We're here doing another episode of our Building Hurting Bombs. I got the man Danny Lau, Costa Clarianos again today. And we're going to try to do another post-Glory video. I'm just back from Glory in New Jersey. So we're going to try to rant about that a little bit, talk about some stuff. I know Costa had a few questions thrown his way, and I get this question a lot. We're going to kind of discuss and go over. People always asking, how do you strength train and kickbox? And they think they're two separate things and they don't interact and actually work and help each other. So we're going to get on that near the end. But first things first, last week we did a whole episode with Danny. Danny filmed it. He came in, and the guy, we go home, and next thing you know, we find out it was his birthday, and he didn't even tell us. Usually we have Facebook to tell us birthdays, but that's no longer a thing in my world. So I had no idea it was Danny's birthday last week. So officially on the podcast, happy birthday, Danny. And thank you for the channel, man. I mean, without you and without the effort and the dedication with the years, it wouldn't be possible. So happy birthday.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Happy birthday, D.
Thanks, Kos.
So now let's get into a little bit about New Jersey. Actually, no. I want to take a little pause right now. We need to discuss something. It's distracting me, and I can see Danny's face. It's your back screen, man. That backdrop is absolutely. It's good and bad at the same time. But I can't even move on to this next topic until we discuss your backdrop, because you're not at Bazooka Kickboxing, and it looks like you're there.
Yes, Joe. Look, modern technology. I don't know. You just wanted to. I couldn't make it today, so I'm at Bazooka West, aka my garage. I have some weight equipment here, but no one needs to see that background, so I put on a virtual background of Bazooka Kickboxing. So I think it looks quite nice.
Technically, he's behind me.
Yeah, and look how much you're stressing out poor Danny, who's got to edit this.
Microphone. I have a Yeti. I like to call it Yeti, to be fancy.
And look at everybody, though. All my channels, perfect videos, amazing B-roll, the top quality, and then all of a sudden Costa comes on with some budget green screen back there.
Let's be real, Joe. I'm a budget guest, so I mean, at this point, the green screen is the least of your worries.
Yeah. Well, I just had to get that out of the way. Last week I complained about your hair, but that got fixed up.
Nice fade.
Nice clean.
Well,
fade.
I'm having tough. Fabrizio's closed, so I gotta make do. Oh. Shout out Fabrizio. He's good dude.
He cuts your hair, nice, but not last week. Yeah. And so,
no, it's closed. Lockdown. Blame the government. We discussed this.
All right.
Anyways, stay safe, everyone. Stay safe.
All right.
I'm social distancing from my house.
That's what it is. I'm surprised you didn't wear a mask. We can wear masks through Skype. Just
I got
to show
a Canadian
people.
mask. I should put that on. Yeah.
I just love right now.
Anyways.
There's a lot of TV and production crews. I just think it's hilarious when you're doing an interview and they're wearing a mask. Like, no one's around them. They're outside doing a news report. Why do they need a mask on?
It's a great question, Joe.
Yeah.
And I'm not even getting into that.
That we won't get into. We won't get into.
Yeah,
the
because
politics.
here's the problem. People.
I'm not going to get into it. Here he goes.
Here he goes.
I'm not going to get into that specific, but you're not allowed to have an opinion anymore in life, right? If you have an opinion and it goes against what the not even the mainstream, what the Twitter people think or the online people, you're destroyed. You cannot have your own opinion. I understand. Now, it's fair if your opinion is racist, homophobic, all things like that. Absolutely. That's not an opinion. That's wrong. That's hate. But if you just have an opinion and you think differently than someone, people lose it on you and they get personal. It's ridiculous. Like, trolling on the internet is no longer fun. Come on. I can't people just get so aggressive about it. So anyways, that's my original
I just picture
story.
COVID now has become like politics. It's not even worth bringing it up and talking to people about it.
It is.
Just you have your opinion. It's just
nobody
way
wants
too
anyone
much.
to die. Everyone wants to be safe, but people have different opinions on it. Like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to give my opinion here because I'm not qualified to give that. It hasn't stopped me before, but whatever. I'm not going to pretend I know more than an epidemiologist, but you cannot have a different opinion on things. But anyways, how was Glorious different?
Well, speaking of COVID, it made the trip different. It's just I'm trying not to be so negative in life right now. I mean, everything, I can look and be like, well, Badr Hari's fighting. I'm not live. I'm calling it from a studio. There's no fight week. But I try to kind of change my mindset. I'm trying to think positively about it. So I looked at it more as a positive end to the year for me. One, it got me calling fights again. Got me another payday, which is kind of nice at a time like this. And just to be around Todd and my boss and, Damien, the producer, I mean, it's just nice to see everyone. It wasn't the big group. I didn't get to see the fighters, the coaches, the camps, to get that fight week energy. But just to be, with the main guys behind the scene and still call fights was something positive.
Yeah, I missed Danny there doing his usual wrap-ups, the video wrap-ups.
Yeah, I miss being there.
How was that, Danny? I mean, so for those who might not know, Danny is a professional videographer. He's done a lot of different YouTube projects with other big channels, as well
Including
as
the Rogers Cup.
He did the Rogers Cup, yeah. And he also, I think his biggest highlights of his stuff is not all of them, but a lot of those glory edits and stuff that you're watching was all Danny. Danny traveled probably, 2.5 years?
2.5 years.
2.5 years with glory. So every trip I was on, Danny was with me. So he got that real behind-the-scenes look of what glory is, how it's created, behind-the-scenes show, from show day to all those post-edits, a lot of that's Danny's work that you guys are watching, those highlights and stuff like that. Also, he's with Invicta, so all those Invicta little videos and highlights, that's all him. So he's been behind it. So I wanted to kind of see what he thought of the show. This is his first show not being there.
It was interesting. I mean, you guys did a good job. You and Todd, again, it didn't seem like you guys skipped a beat at all, which was really good. I was expecting a little bit of nerves and stuff like that from both of you. Maybe it's a little bit more hesitant because it's been a while, but honestly, you guys killed it. The show went well. The show went smooth. It was weird seeing nobody there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was kind of weird. I miss it. I miss the team. I miss the production room and
the late night editing.
Yeah, late night editing, and you and Todd, coming in and interrupting us and chilling with us in the middle of the night and cleaning up our table because you're OCD with all that type of stuff. We would have
These guys are messy.
We're really messy. We have drinks and snacks everywhere, and Joe would just come in and clean it all up.
Start cleaning and organizing,
which is a good thing.
Slobs.
But the show looked good. I mean, did you guys film it in a hotel room, like that backdrop and everything?
No,
like that?
actually, we were in an industrial unit.
Oh, really?
It was literally built in an industrial unit. And beside us, there was all other industrial units, and they were filming and producing all of the college games. Again.
Oh, okay.
So they were ESPN actually set up some studios to have all the different games playing. So that's how things are moving now, because a lot of the production rooms in the main sports centers and stuff that they're doing they're too small to have physical distance.
Yeah.
And if you think a lot of production happens in sporting events, happens in those little trucks, but in those little trucks, you need 5, 6, 7 people, and you can't manage your distance. So they've had to kind of create these studios in these industrial units to be able to have the space to kind of keep people separate. So they were basically, all of sports is basically being filmed in these industrial units now, which is kind of weird to me. And it seemed to have worked. I mean, this is my first time doing something like that. But the different thing was, it's not necessarily the nerves felt better, because a lot of the nerves for me, it's not talking about the fights, talking on camera. That stuff's easy for me, but it's more talking live. You need to kind of have it's kind of a voice thing where, when I'm doing in-ring interviews, I got to learn how to project my voice. I got to learn how to bring the ups and the downs. And talking from a mic to a large audience is difficult.
Yeah.
You got to think, the last time I was on air, or 2 shows ago, I was calling Rico versus Badr, where I think there was 39,000 people. I never did public speaking. You're giving me a mic now and expecting me to be able to talk to 39,000 people. Yeah, I'm going to be a little nervous at that point.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I've realized I missed, because fighting to me has become so, it's human nature to me now. I've been doing it since I'm 4 years old. So I know how to fight. So fighting, I'm also in a mindset. So I was never really nervous. Yeah. But this stuff brings the nerves out in me because it's new and it's different. So that's what I kind of missed. I want to be nervous before I do an in-ring interview. I want to be nervous before addressing the audience and that kind of stuff. So that's that feeling I miss,
Probably had a lot less voices in your ear, though, right? Now that you were no one's in the truck yelling at you all the time.
Well, no, my boss is still yelling at me.
He's still yelling at you.
Good job, boys.
That's the job. Some of the funny lines. Hopefully, when we get Todd on, we can get talk about some of them. Man, we always get in trouble. There's times where Todd and I will be doing the opens, and just before opens, we're practicing, we're rehearsing, my boss would be like, "Joe, are you gonna say anything?" Meaning I'm not talking enough, and then I'll talk too much. Joe, we're on a schedule here, buddy. Well, like, what are we going to do? Can you stop talking so much? I was like, well, what do I do? Do I not talk? Do I talk? So then a little bit of that, when I first started ended up being an issue. But now I like it. I respect it. I understand that the business is all high energy. So if someone's on the mic saying, go, Joe, go, Joe, it doesn't mean they're yelling at me. It just means that the show's got to go on and to kind of get things rolling. But
I want to know the difference, and I got to ask Todd, break this down, because he's had both Vince McMahon in his ear, who is nuts as a producer, and Bill. I want to know the differences in that. That would be actually cool, because Vince McMahon will chew you out. Yeah. And he's a scary individual. But
as I've heard.
Yeah. Talk about what. So I don't know. You guys are on mute for like 5 minutes. Did you talk about your analysis of the fights? Well, or are we gonna want to get into that?
Well, I'll get into some now. I mean, I guess we can start with that main event. I think Badr versus Benny.
Down. My fight, my prediction sucked. What did you think?
I don't know. So my last little bit of analysis, what I did was I watched Rico versus Badr, okay? And I just watched that last fight to see how powerful, how aggressive, how amazing, Badr Hari looked. Then I watched Benjamin Adegbuyi's last fight against D'Angelo Marshall, and I kind of compared what I saw. And at that point, I was like, because I was kind of hesitant, I was like, I understand Badr's powerful, but I knew what Benny could do. Benny's got like 18 glory fights. I've called almost every single one of his fights, so I know how good that man is. And we haven't seen Badr in a long time, so I kind of knew, to keep that Badr hype a little bit down, because it's like that Conor McGregor. When Conor fights, the betting lines all change because he's so confident on the mic. He's so good at talking. So he'll actually sway the betting line. So I kind of knew how good Benny was. So what happened was, just watching their last fights, I was like, man, I don't know. Because I saw Benny get hit a little bit in his fight with D'Angelo Marshall, especially in the first round. So I was like, first round, he's getting hit. I don't know. When you look at Badr, most of his finishes, I think I want to say, if I remember the statistics, 46% of his knockouts have come in the first round. So the first round is where his damage is happening. And I saw, like I said, Benny got hit a few times in that last fight. And the way he put, Rico down, Rico's never been put down. And he got dropped twice in that last fight. So I was thinking Badr's power would have been a little too much for Benny. But I knew as the fight went on, Benny would have had the advantage. Yeah. So I guess I was right with that when it came to prediction. As the fight went on, it was Benny's fight. But what I'm thinking was with Badr, he was so set on this first round knockout that what happens is he lets everything out. He holds his breath. He just tries to get that knockout a little too much. And then you get exhausted, and then he didn't get it. So I think I saw the experience of Badr come out in that second round. He was a little bit more patient. He set things up a little bit more. He waited for the moments to explode.
He calmed down a little bit.
Yeah, because Badr fights in moments, and then if he attacks like crazy, and then he doesn't get his time to recover, that's your gas tank going out really quickly.
Is that an element where he hasn't been active? He was kind of worried about, what's my gas tank? He's getting a little older there, and he's just like, I got to come out and knock this guy out in the first round because my power's going to always be there. But how's my gas tank? Do you think he was worried about that? That's why he came out guns a-blazing, or is that just his style?
No, I just think it's his style. I mean, if you look at his record in his past fights, Badr's a guy who lives or dies by the sword. I mean, he's going to knock you out, and if he doesn't knock you out, there's a good chance he's going to get knocked out. And I mean, I think of his career, like if you can look back, you can almost count the number of times. He's got, I think, 106 wins, 92 by knockout. Okay, 106 wins, 92 by knockout. And I think of those fights that went to decision, or the fights that he didn't win is what I'm trying to say, he got knocked out in those. Or he kind of got DQ'd or something. So Badr's not a decision guy, right? So, I mean, you got to think, it's live or die by the sword. So when he went after Benny, I mean, he dropped him too. But I just showed, that third round that Benny was just tough and was able to sit in there, weather the storm, and got his victory.
What was Benny's latest fight? Was it
D'Angelo Marshall, yeah.
And before that, he got knocked out by Jamal Ben Sadiq.
So, again, this is where I thought Badr's power would have played a little bit more of an advantage.
Yeah, when he got knocked out by Jamal, it was a tournament fight, though.
Yeah. So, that was his third fight in one night.
Yeah, he fought Jafar, and I forgot who else he fought.
In the first fight, I can't remember.
In the first fight, yeah. So it kind of makes sense. You go against Jamal Ben Sadiq, who had a relatively easy road to that final, I believe. I believe he beat Tafa pretty fast.
Yeah, but everyone just has their own things. You know, even in that fight when he fought Jamal Ben Sadiq, Jamal had to go southpaw because he broke his right hand. And he ended up knocking out Benny southpaw with the left hand because his right hand was broken, right? Yeah. So, I mean, everyone in a tournament has different variables and stuff like that. But just before him getting knocked out, you got to think the guy fought Rico Verhoeven twice. He was #1 contender for so long. Now I think he's moved as the #2 because Jamal Ben Sadiq moved his way and worked his way up to #1. But regardless, the man is Benjamin Adekbuyi, man, Mr. Gentleman. The guy's a stud. He's, very... well respected. He's a respectful athlete himself.
Really,
and
really cool.
Just to be behind the scenes, very pleasant to be around. So, I mean, he deserves everything he kind of worked for.
Yeah, I agree.
Just the big issue now is that the problem is him and Rico train together, and that's a big thing. I mean, that's something that it's going to be tough, man. I mean, you got to think those guys have been training together for 5 years now. I know it's everyone just says it's just business, it's just the sport. Yeah. But there's more to it than that, man.
Fighting your own teammate it's not easy, man.
IKF World Classic. We're at the event. Joe won it, his weight class, but we had two teammates in doing their own in the same weight class. They ended up having to fight the quarterfinals. They wanted to fight each other. They didn't care because Joe, when you get in the zone, you don't care, but later on you think about differences. It wasn't right, so I had to spend the whole night trying to convince one of them to pull out. We decided we had to think strategically who's going to be most likely, who matches up better in the later rounds, and we picked that out. That sucks. So I mean, it's hard to fight teammate versus teammate and impossible. So even at that level. So I get that.
But this is for a world title. This is not even an amateur little tournament. You're talking about no
Joe,
shin guards, and you need that killer instinct, man. I go in to kill. I can't go in there with that mindset. People even ask me like, Muay Thai, 5 rounds. You don't fight the first 2 rounds. I was like, not fight the first 2 rounds. As soon as that bell goes, I want to knock you the F out. I'm not sitting here to play for betters to like me relax. I can't relax 2 rounds to no chance. I'm going right after it, So
talk
stuff
about
like that.
Live by the sword, die by the sword. You talk about live by the sword, die. Who impressed you the most on the Glory card, Joe? Who do you think was the breakout fighter on this card? You haven't seen these guys in a while. Who was like, holy shit, he came out of nowhere, or you know what, that's what I expected type of thing?
Well, we brought in a few new guys to come check you out, and one Dutch kid, tall, good with his kicks and knees. His name is Levi Richters, as they say in the Dutch.
Nice pronunciation.
I can't say those, Richters. But man, the kid was good, tall. He ended up, his first fight wasn't the strongest. We brought in a French fighter, Marciano Baguandas. We didn't know much about him. He came in, the guy was 17-0, so we thought he would have had some good power. He's a headhunter. But Richters kept him away, picked the body, and got a finish in the first round. And then he fought in the finals against a guy named Nordin Mahadin. Guy's a heavyweight who basically fights like a lightweight. The way he hits, moves, changes levels, head kicks, very good. But he went against the tournament favorite in the first round that went an extra round. And it was a straight-out war. So now, when you put him in the finals against Richters versus Mahadin, it was like one front kick, and that was it. I mean, didn't take too much. So that's a fight where I think it could have been totally different. I mean, Richters looked great. He's now, I think, 12-0. But still, like Mahadin fresh wouldn't have gone down like that. He took the best shots from Plazabot in that first fight. So, I mean, he was damaged. And this is why Costa and I always go back on why we hate tournaments, Because even when I fought Holtzkin, right, that was the fight that we always wanted fresh. There's too many variables. And I'll be honest with you. I just mentioned I'm a knockout fighter. Like, me winning by decision, I would still be upset. I'm all about if I got the finish, I was happy. So it's just when you don't have that power, I may leave it all in there or all out. I'm not a tournament fighter, and I'll be the first to say it. I'm not a tournament fighter. I'm a power fighter. I'm an aggressive fighter. Like, I go in there to lay power out. I'm not in there to play hit and move. And so when you fight someone, at that point when I went into Japan, I only had my 11 professional fights. Holtzkin, I think, had 100 at that time. So with 100 professional fights, you know how to play the game. You know how to pace yourself. But for me, to beat someone with 100 professional fights, I go in with the bazooka. You know, I'm not going in there with a pistol, a knife. I'm going in there trying to blast people out. So if I don't have that opportunity, I have to use different skills, which now as I'm a little bit more mature and I've been training and understand the game a little bit more, I could play those games. But at that time in my career, it was all about blasting guys out. So there's too many variables. And so that's why even with Glory, it's a big thing for Glory. But I right away had said, I don't like them. Yeah. I don't like them for the reason of not only necessarily does the best fighter wins. A lot of times, again, injuries, hurt, too many things to think about, too many variables. But also, I mean, we've done research. We've talked about how brutal combat sports are on the body and the brain. So it's almost a time where you're decreasing these guys' careers a little bit. Like, say in your first fight, you got rocked, you got hurt, you got shook. You pop back up. It's not like MMA where you're done. You might get dropped 2-3 times in that first fight or get rocked or stunned or shook up a couple of times and then have to fight 30 minutes later. Your brain's not recovered at that time. You need to be taking, you know, weeks and months between those types of concussion trauma. So I personally don't love tournament formats, and I'm kind of glad that they've kind of fizzled away a little bit.
And in that 30 minutes,
still had the...
Sorry,
still had the greatest fight in Glory history, Joe. After Nicky, after your after that war with Raymond Daniels.
Yeah.
So
well, I mean, I got one of the knockouts of the year and fight of the night within an hour, right? Fight of the year. So not a bad thing, but I'm sure it's taken a couple years off of my body and my life. Who knows? But they're brutal, and I, like I said, I'm not a tournament fighter, and I can't even imagine how the heavyweights used to go 3 times in one night. As a heavyweight, you know what I mean? Like, woo. That's just something.
Semi Schilt. I don't know how that kid can move at that size. Like, I should have been a freaking basketball player.
It's just because he's so long, he just keeps kicking people away.
Yeah, just jab.
I felt bad for the guys like the Sakis in those tournaments, who shorter guys who have to come in and bang out. Like, you got to take shots to give shots if you're that type of guy. So for someone like Saki and those smaller heavyweights, oh my God, it's traumatizing to think of who you have to go against and do it 3 times in one night. Just craziness.
What did you think about the Doumbé fight?
The Doumbé fight. Yeah, we never got to talk about that. I was really, really, really looking forward to that Myrtle Grunhart fight. I mean, both of those guys, the trash talking. Myrtle has, is just OG, where, he's been around the game for so long. And I just can't believe, Myrtle's been literally at the top of the fighting stage for.
And you can never count him out.
No, never. Just that awkward, weird style. Yeah. And again, he beat Doumbé. That's how he got the title. He beat Doumbé for it. Yeah. So it's a 1-1, a lot of beef, a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on. So I was really excited for that one. The hype has been building for years now, so it's ready to go. But kind of what I expected. And if you listen to my call, I nailed it. I nailed the call because in that first round, Doumbé was looking a little sloppy, a little wild. It's like I mentioned with Badr, trying too hard for the finish, So I think that was Doumbé looking a little sloppier in that first round. But then he realized, okay, this might not, I can't finish him as easy as I thought. And then he kind of slowed down, started setting things up, creating angles, and then he finally got the finish. But it's just a different style now. He's not your traditional sit in, throw your 1, 2, 3 kick, your basic strikes. He throws his punches on looping angles, uppercuts. He turns his body like it's weird, awkward punches. And it's different, and it's hurting guys, man. I mean, and I think a big thing for him, Costa, you'll appreciate that. I mean, one, he doesn't really have a coach right now, so he's not developing. But what he did in this last few years was understanding that he's got, I think, over 80 professional fights now. So he knows how to fight. He knows how to throw a jab. He knows how to throw a cross. But he's really focused on physical fitness. He's focused on strength training. He's focused on, different types of weight room training, athletic training. And once he's changed his mind from being a fighter into a full athlete, this is when we've seen him. He has 6 fights. He's finished his last 5. But I really credit that from his work in the weight room. I think it's totally changed his mindset. I think it's totally, made him an athlete. Like when I talked to him 2 years ago, he didn't really know how to cut weight. He didn't know about training and that stuff. But this last 2 years, that type of focus has just made him into a spectacular fighter.
And here's a point, and you bring up a really good point. I like how you said he's got 80 professional fights. He knows how to jab. He knows how to hit. He has that experience in the ring. He's got his basics. He's a better fighter than 99% of the people on the planet. Now he's focusing on his physical conditioning. Too many people try and focus too much at one time. So they're just starting out. If you're just starting out to learn kickboxing or MMA or anything, they're like, okay, I got to do my strength and conditioning. Like, you don't even know how to throw a punch.
Exactly.
Focus on learning the sport, because it's hard enough to master that sport. Kickboxing is one of those sports that you can learn in a day, but it takes a lifetime to master, right?
Yeah.
Learn throwing a kick, something to get that muscle memory in. Why are you trying to do too many things by like, oh, I'm not strong enough. No, you need to learn how to fight. You'll get your conditioning, you'll get your strength, because you're teaching your body a new skill and you're repeating it.
Yeah.
And then once you do that and you have a little bit under your belt, then you can focus on your get physical fitness to get you to that next level, because at that top level, all the guys, just like in the professional, just like in track and field, the difference is in track and field, the difference between 100-meter runners are 100th of a second. So in kickboxing, it's 100th of a second, like using a kind of a metaphor there. So what's going to give you that edge? It's, you're all the best punchers, you're all the best kickers. Some guys have more experience, more technique, sure, but get your physical fitness to that next level so you can be producing your technique and your experience in the third, fourth, and fifth round, so you don't have to gas out in the first round. And that's what we did. You come out fighting like a Badr, and you come out banging, but you come out banging into the third, fourth, and the championship rounds. And that the physical fitness enabled you to use that strength that technique that you built up, that experience you built up, and it just lets you use that at 100% through all the rounds. So it's doing everything in the correct order instead of trying to be all at once. People try and learn to kickbox. They try and do their physical conditioning, and they also try and get sponsorships before they ever fought. It's like, stop trying to be what the champion is. Take the progression. Stop trying to take those shortcuts and doing it at once. Grind it out. You know what I mean?
I mean, at first, I can give you so many different techniques. Like, for example, you're throwing a round kick. If you're throwing it as hard as you can, I can say, hey, just on your plant foot, go on your calf a little bit, drive off that rear calf, and all of a sudden, boom, they're hitting with more power. But eventually, you're getting on the calf, you're driving off that rear calf, you're stepping outside to get more power. So I think that's when that strength and conditioning, this is what we're going to bring up, that strength work. I'm going to correct myself. That strength work really plays, because at that point now your hips are driving, everything's generating more force and more power with the good technique, and this is where you get that great damaging power. But the question is, they say like a natural knockout artist, someone with that knockout power, they say it's created, not really made. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at an Alex Pereira, a Mike Tyson, you can't. Some people aren't made to be knockout hitters, right?
100%. It's genetics obviously plays a huge role in it. If you're Mike Tyson, you cannot create another Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson is born Mike Tyson. Through his training and through everything else, he's maximized his potential. But you can do the exact same training that Mike Tyson did in his prime, and you will not be Mike Tyson. You can do everything he did identical. You will not be Mike Tyson because you weren't born. But technique is super important in made. If you have that natural technique, it's 90% of your power. That's what people don't understand. You can have the best strength program in the world, but if your technique isn't creating that power and your genetics aren't creating that power, it's nothing. You know it as, obviously you know it. If you're trying to muscle something, it's not doing it. Your power is created through your technique. That gets you 90% of the way there. And then when you're at the pro levels, you guys both have that power. So you know what? Let's get that little extra couple of percentage points, because that's what that strength work is going to provide you. Strength work has a lot of other advantages, like, rehab extends your career.
Yep.
It helps you. But in terms of actual power in the ring, it's going to give you an extra couple of percentage points, which when you're learning is nothing. It's actually could be counterproductive because you're not creating the power through technique. But when you're a professional, that extra couple of percentage is the difference between a knockout and a glancing blow.
Yeah. And the other thing you always talk about, which I think is important, is when people try to overload the the strike with weight. And I mean, you're always against it. Like when you see someone trying to like weight their ankles, like throwing kicks with ankles on the weights, or throwing even maybe 5 pounds could happen. But if you're holding 10-pound dumbbells and trying to throw straight punches, like, you know, a lot of people try to recreate the strike holding weight thinking that's going to give them more power.
Yeah, not only is that going to mess you up your shoulders, destroy your shoulders and your hips.
And your hips from the extra weight.
So you get, Bruce Lee said 1,000 kicks, or one kick, practice a perfect kick 1,000 times, because your unconscious, your muscle memory wants to do it. It's such a precise movement. If you're changing that movement using a weight, so you're changing, at the end, it's taking you in a different direction, and now you're taking that weight away, you've lost that precise movement that's created your power, that's created that technique, and it messes up with your muscle memory. You can't do that. Just like when hitters are in baseball in the on-deck circle and they put weight on their bat thinking they're going to increase bat speed. In your mind, it does, but studies have actually shown that it doesn't increase your bat speed. But especially in kickboxing, you have to just practice that. I know you do warm-ups with light 1-pound weight, that's fine. Gets you warmed up. 1 pound isn't going to do anything.
That's basically the weight of your glove.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So you're doing it for a different reason, but these people who go 5 pounds, like, thinking they're getting strong. It's like, are you kidding me, guys? Like, it doesn't make any sense just because I mean, people think that the more they get tired, the harder something is, the better it is. No, any idiot can get you tired. I can say, go run circles around the building for 3 hours. Burpees. You're going to get tired. Yeah, go do 100 burpees and, you know, destroy yourself. Yeah, you're going to get tired. Of course you can. Like, but are you going to get better? It's all about getting better. And, you know, and the only way you can tell if you're getting better is, are you better in the ring? Are you testing yourself? You know, and we're talking specifically kickboxing. Are you destroying your sparring opponents safely? But are you beating them in technique? You know, are you getting in the ring? That's how you're getting better. It's not, are you getting more tired during training? It doesn't do nothing. You know.
I just love how you really butchered that Bruce Lee quote. That was great.
I saw your face.
I was just like, ooh, that's one of my favorite, you know, sayings from Bruce Lee. You know, Bruce Lee says you got to throw 1,000 kicks.
No, I changed it. I said one kick, a perfect kick 1,000 times. Okay. I caught myself.
It goes along the lines of 10,000 kicks, but it's okay. So it says it's better to throw one kick 10,000 times than to throw 10,000 kicks one time.
I corrected myself, Joe.
My other favorite one, it says, and this is a good one. It says, when you first learn to punch and kick, a kick is a kick and a punch is a punch, right? Because when we watch something, we look at it and be like, oh, he's just punching and kicking, or he's just. Well, I used to watch soccer games that, like, you know, I can play at that level. It's just they're just kicking the ball, right? But then they say, as you learn to kick and punch, a kick is no longer a kick, a punch is no longer a punch, because you start learning the details of it, the intricate side of things. But once you master the kick and punch, a kick is a kick and a punch is a punch. So it just shows that learning curve. That's one of my favorite ones.
My favorite is when we go to basketball games. You're like, I could do that. When we're Raptors, I could do that.
Of course.
Okay.
Have you seen my set shooting? I was a high school teacher for 10 years. But put it this way. So I was a high school teacher for 9 years in Toronto. And while I was teaching, I was competing and fighting still. And because I was always cutting weight or I was tired from training, the kids always wanted to play basketball. So instead of me running around and getting tired, I knew I'd be too tired for training at night. So I would play 21. I'd play the best of 10 three-point shots. I'd create shooting games or horse. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, my set shooting was phenomenal. Just boom, boom, boom. I didn't miss, man.
I didn't think you played basketball.
I didn't miss.
I didn't know you could play
Open
basketball.
challenge to LeBron James. Joe's calling you
Joe's
out.
Calling, yeah, one-on-one.
I only want to see because I just want to meet LeBron or Kyle Lowry since we're in Toronto.
I'd love to low kick LeBron James. Can he take one of my low kicks is what I'd like to know. A nice calf kick because he's tall.
He was beefing with
one calf kick, he's gone. Come on, one calf kick, LeBron's gone.
He was beefing with Kobe pretty
bad.
Good.
Here's my idea, Danny. Tell me what you think about this.
Okay.
It's called Pros versus Joe. You know, we get Joe to face
name.
someone in their sport, like a LeBron or, baseball player. So, for instance, Joe thinks he can hit a fastball from a professional pitcher. Also hilarious.
Okay.
Yeah. I said I could touch one. I'm not saying I can hit it. He said, okay, how many pitches did you say? And I wouldn't even nick a ball, you said.
For a professional pitcher, he can throw a pitch once. 100.
If he threw 100 pitches, you don't think I can not connect, but even foul ball one, nick one, touch one.
I'll be
Can't
honest,
catch up
I'll be
to it.
honest,
You
Joe.
can't catch
I'm
up
with
to it. It
Cost in this one,
moves.
man. I don't think you could do it, bro. I don't think you
The
can
other
do
one he
it,
said
man.
it to me, the two he said it to me was, and I swear, okay, the two he said to me was, I wouldn't be able to even touch. I'm not talking about home running a major league
I don't
pitch
think you
ball.
could foul it.
Not even touch it, he said.
Can't
And
do
he
it.
said, I
Can't do it.
wouldn't even
No.
touch a serve from a tennis player. He
Can't
goes,
do it.
off
No
of a
chance.
serve, he goes,
I
not
agree
even
with
get my
him.
racket on. He goes, Joe, you wouldn't even get your racket on it. And that's really hard for me to
Bianca
believe.
has offered in the past. So when we get her back, we'll get her. You don't understand how good. See,
Okay,
it's
but-
like when people say to you, it's like you get an amateur box. No one would be able to touch you in the ring, Joe. At
But
a, like
they
a
could.
good
Okay, if
amateur.
they had
Someone
100
could.
if they had 100 jabs in one sparring match, do you think they can land one jab on you?
Probably. There's
Somebody
a chance.
who's never done it before. Somebody's never done it before.
Okay, but if you're, am I someone who's not athletic? Am
can-
I just the
can
person
barely
off of
land
the
a jab
street?
on you, Joe. I can barely land a
But
jab
you're-
on you, and I've been doing this for 10 years.
I understand that. But if you also, no disrespect,
Yeah.
you're not a super athlete.
Of course.
Oh,
Yeah.
I would consider myself a super athlete.
So Bianca, you think Bianca can spar with you and
Bianca's
land
a
jab
super
on you?
athlete.
She's a
Joe.
super
She's
athlete.
the best in the world. Yeah.
maybe. I bet she would have, maybe. If she
I've
threw
had
a
her
double
serve.
or I
I've
don't
had her serve
expect it.
against me, okay? I'm not a super athlete, I get it, but I've had her serve against me. She's, and like this ball comes in at 90, at 100 something, it curves. It comes like 30 feet in front of you where you're just standing there. I couldn't even
disagree.
move
I would
to
touch
hit it.
one.
It's ridiculous.
Then
All
this
right,
idea-
we'll
Until
Cost, you have a
until
great idea.
someone
This
has
is gonna
done
be
it,
great.
I would like to try it because I'm telling you right now, I could touch it.
But this idea only works with Joe's belief that he can do it. That's why this
Yeah.
works.
I
So
can
pro
do it.
versus Joe. So first you compete in theirs, and the goal is, let's say, so it starts out, the first thing is their sport, but the second part is they have to spar with Joe, right? So
That'd be
and it
great.
will be a 3-minute round,
That'd be
and
great.
then it would be like every pitch they get past them. Let's say it's 10 pitches, you take 10 seconds off of the sparring round. So that and then the next one we see if they go with Joe, pros versus Joe.
I'm
It's a
honestly,
great
guys, a little
idea.
disrespected from you two right now. Like, I still can't
upset that he
believe
doesn't
I'm very
do it.
disrespected to the point where I think I might leave because I'm like, I still
I'll
can't
give you
believe
one.
you
I'll
guys
give
do
you
not
one, mate.
think I could touch 1 out of 100.
I'm going to give you
Come
one
on.
apology here, Joe. I'm going
Come
to give you
on.
one apology
Like,
here.
I feel really like
Do
you
you know
guys
a
look
story
at me
I'm
and
gonna
we're my
tell?
friends. Like, there's
you know-
100% I would touch one of those.
Do you know what story I'm going to tell right now, Joe, that I'm going to take back when
Which one?
so we had to throw I don't know if I've told this before. We had to throw the opening pitch, or Joe had to throw the opening pitch at a Blue Jays game, okay? And I'm like, Joe, do you know how long it is? You don't even throw. You've never thrown a ball. Like, you have, but you never. How long it is to throw
Not
a hard
on a
ball?
mound, especially on the mound where you have to
Great
like
mound.
throw down and stuff. Yeah.
60 feet, 6 inches to home plate, in front of 30,000 people.
And it was
to
like a
local-
weekend game, so it was busy
Yeah, it
too.
was packed, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm, chirping you. Me and you were warming up on the field, and I couldn't even throw and catch. I was nervous because there's people, no one's even watching, but there's people around,
Yep.
and you're like, we got to stop. So he goes up there, and I'm talking to the person beside me. I'm like, this is going to be hilarious. He's going to have like one of those things like 50 Cent
The
did.
50
It's gonna be
Cent
thrown
throw,
into
yeah.
the audience.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
all.
Yeah, so-
My whole time the night before. No, how nervous I was the night before
Oh, I
not to do
bet.
a 50 Cent
Oh,
throw
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Jeez.
Yeah, I
So
bet.
I go, the guy throws a seed to the catcher. Like, it's just right in there. I'm like, and I look at the problem, I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
this is ridiculous.
From the top, from the pitcher's mound too.
From the pitchers.
Most
because the
people
lady-
kind of go in a little closer.
Go in closer. Like, I'm like, Joe, you're not going in closer. You're gonna embarrass yourself.
Yeah,
Fully
that's what we
wanting
said.
to
We
do
had
that.
this
You had to do it.
conversation. I'm like,
You had
Cost,
to
like,
put
where
them
do I
out.
throw it from? He's like, he puts his hands, like classic Costa hands. He goes, you got to throw from the mound. I was like, well, Cost, I don't know. Like, where do people? I have never watched anyone throw an opening pitch really, other than those ones where people mess up. That's the only highlight that I've seen. So I didn't want to do that.
Beat
person.
in. I will tell you something. If Joe, and I've seen him throw, he's got a cannon for an arm.
could believe
his
that.
technique is terrible.
I'm
but
a
that's 'cause
kicker
he
too.
doesn't throw.
Remember, I'm a kicker.
Yeah. So if you were to practice baseball, you would be able to do well in it
Yes.
because you're an athlete.
I
but
agree.
coming in cold off the street, you wouldn't touch
I think
it. But
if you
were
gave
to practice,
yeah.
you'd be fine.
If you gave Joe some practice and some time,
Guys,
for sure he
100 pitches. I don't know. I still can't believe you guys are just sitting there disrespecting me like that. I mean, I think it's crazy. 100 pitches. I don't know. Unless it happens,
challenge is
we're
out
always
there.
going to have it. Well, it's there.
The
I'm
challenge is
down.
out there. Any pro players listening,
The
you know,
challenge is out there.
And people
we're
comment.
gonna pitch in the spring. Yeah, we're
Leave
gonna.
a
Anybody
comment
have
if you
a?
guys think this is a good idea.
I'm gonna tell Dalton to hook me up with a pitcher when they're out here,
Done.
and we'll get you in there. Perfect.
Yeah, because
All
you
right.
know what?
Sweet.
I feel very let down right now from my friends, but it's all right. You know,
Challenge.
the challenge has been accepted.
What do we want to talk about strength-wise, Joe?
Well, the thing was, I keep getting this question, and I mean, I get it a lot, and I mean, eventually I want to do, figure out a way. I mean, I think this is between Danny and us. I want people to be able to submit questions to us so we can kind of go through some questions and answer them for the people watching. But the question that I get a lot throughout the years, which is an annoying, it's annoying because people don't understand what goes in it. The first is like, hey, I know you're getting bigger and stronger and you're still kickboxing. Can you send me your weight program? Which I think is funny. Yeah, hold on a second. Let me just quickly, you know, just even if it wasn't about the money, even if it wasn't about that, it's years. How do you just create a plan? It's just crazy. I just love when people just hit you up with me wanting to send the plans. But I think the big question that people want to know, Costa, is how are we able to still weight train and kickbox at a high level? How do you do both at a high level? And probably some of the myths behind that is you lift, you get too slow. You lift, you're going to lose that speed. So how do you keep both at a very high level? And usually the question is how often someone should lift in a week, right? So those are the basic ones I always get. And again, this could be a 4-year discussion on starting about rep range, what's your goals, you know, how much time do you have, what's your energy levels, rate of perceived exertion, days of the week you have, do you work another job? I mean, there's so many variables into it, but I guess we can just hit it from a general standpoint.
Yeah. What do you mean? You saying that I ramble, Joe? Of course I do.
Of course. And then this answer here is going to probably go off in like 5 different ways. So let's see what we got.
We'll have nothing, no part of the original question answered.
Yes. That's the cost.
So the first thing I'm going to say is, you know, and I've addressed it a lot, but it involves addressing all the time because you still get it. People are like, oh, I'm going to get too big, too slow. Buddy, you're not going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're not going to be Joe. If it was that easy, if I lift up a weight, then I'd be, you know how jacked that would be right now? Like,
look, if I even look at the weight room, I get jacked.
Yeah, okay.
If I even look at dumbbells, my biceps grow.
It's not going to, I don't care how hard you're going to train. You're not going to be Schwarzenegger. I mean, if you are, then you know what? You're going to figure that out real quick. But that's 1% of the population.
Good luck.
If you train hard, you're gonna get some increased muscle mass. You're not gonna be muscle bound. You're not gonna look like the Michelin Man. You're not gonna look like a pro bodybuilder, but you're gonna have some nice muscle. You're gonna cut down your fat a little bit. You're gonna feel better. You're gonna look better if you've done it. Mentally, you're gonna feel better as well. I think mental health is a huge aspect of weight training. It's gotten me through a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of people who are in the gym, and here we go off in a different direction already. A lot of people who get in the gym, they're like, I'm not getting any results. I'm not this. But they feel great. And if you get your mind, if you get those endorphins going, your mind feels great. That's the battle there. Who are you looking at, Joe?
No, we have one of our friends coming in.
Oh, that's fun.
But it's only on you, Costa. You're calling me out.
Okay,
the video's only recording me.
Sorry. So, your mental health aspect, and then you're going to want to train more, and you're going to want to do better in life, like kickboxing. So, you know what? If you want to do better in kickboxing, the mental aspect is a lot of it. So if you feel better from weight training, you're going to do better in kickboxing. But everyone's like, oh, am I going to overtrain? No, you sit. And again, I'm not speaking to the top 1%. I'm speaking to the 80%. Those percentages don't mix up, but you get my point. You're not overtraining. You sit at a desk all day. You don't have the capacity to overtrain. If anything, you're undertraining. Very few people overtrain. They undereat.
Okay, but let's not talk about it because I'm sure most of the people now who I'm going to kind of control your ranting, but most people who be listening here aren't just general people. They want to know about performance. There may be amateur fighters. So I don't really care about. I mean, I still care about those people, but I don't care about the business person wanting a strong mindset. I want that person who might be working in an office and still have to kickbox and have to weight train for performance because he's got a fight in 2 months,
Yeah.
That's
So
the person we got to address.
So I would do three days kickboxing, 2 days 2 days weight training, 2 to 3 days weight training, and 1 to 2 days rest.
You would think only 3 versus 2. I mean, you got to think. Remember, if we're addressing an amateur who has a fight, would you say maybe 1 day a week? Wouldn't it be better to get more?
How many weeks out are we talking?
Okay, see, this is the general question, right? This is why people. It's actually good we're having a discussion, because when people ask these questions, these are the questions that you need to know these answers.
Yeah. Off season, I do 3 and 3. If you don't have a fight coming up, I do 3 and 3.
You would value that much, 50-50, really?
If you're trying to focus on your, on your goals of getting bigger, stronger. I know that kind of completely contradicts what I was talking about for pro fighters at the beginning, but if I'm talking about amateur fighters, 3 and 3. If you're leading up to a fight, so we're talking the 15-week phase, I would move that to a 4 and 2.
Yeah.
With the 1 day off, because that's the point where you really got to hone in on your kickboxing skills. So you're going to build that. Another reason to go 3 and 3 is you're going to build that strength base in the off season, because you have time to focus to that.
Yeah, this is what periodization means and what people need to understand, right?
Yeah, and if you do it right, you're not going to get slow. If you're bodybuilding, yeah, you're not even going to get slow. You're not going to but if you have a proper strength program that focuses on, that takes cycles in terms of explosiveness, that you have some agility work in there, some speed work and strength, but mainly strength and explosiveness. So you're able to take that weight and you're able to explode it and move it quickly. Okay, so that trains your hips, which is the engine of your body in kickboxing, that your energy systems, to move a lot of weight quickly, which generates force. So you're going to teach your body that in the off season, and then when you're doing your maintenance, which is 4 and 2, leading up to a fight, your body already kind of has that, and you can just kind of maintain and work on that leading up to a fight. But the key, you have to put in more skills work going up to a fight, but you still have to have that maintenance, so you don't lose all the work you put in on the strength side in the off season.
Yeah, and it's also important to understand rep ranges as well. Right now, obviously, I'm not competing right now, so part of me is wanting to get bigger and stronger. So I've been infatuated that my whole life. The bigger, the stronger you can get, the better you are. So
that's sick. Yeah.
I did have to, though, realize that I did have to pull back my kickboxing a little bit sometimes, because I needed those extra time under tension in the weight room in order for my muscles to grow a little bit. So, again, now that I train full time, I'm able to work out, rest, and then kickbox at night. And I think that's where I want you to hit on a little bit now is weight training and kickboxing on the same day, because some people like to do both on the same day. Right? So how would you address that?
You know what? It's all your schedule. Ideally, you don't want to, but if you have to, you have to. So, for example, when I was coaching the Leafs, strength coaching the Leafs with Matt, the guys would have to do their strength training in the morning and go play at night. And in the off days, on practice days, they would do strength training in the morning. In game days, they wouldn't do strength training. It would just be some
like mobility recovery stuff. Right?
Yeah, just the warm-ups and stuff. But on practice days, they'd have to practice every day. These are pro hockey players making millions, so coach wants them to practice every day. So we'd have to do the strength that day, and we would do it after practice. Because strength after practice. Here's why.
I would have thought it would have been the opposite.
When you're preparing for a fight, the skills are the most important. So you got to do that work first. It's not ideal to do the strength work second, but in terms of strength development and maintenance, but you have to understand the sport comes first. And that's what you want to do, because you're in the ring and all that matters is your technique and your experience. So that's why you would do it first. And then if you have anything in the gas tank left, you do your strength work later. But you, as a coach, you have to adjust that. So you're not going to be doing your max effort after you just had a crazy training session. So again, a reason to hire a good coach is they will understand how to ramp up or ramp down your training session based on how your nervous system's feeling, how your training session went earlier, how your body's feeling.
I think that's the key, is talking about the nervous system, because after some big lifts, like after you deadlift or you squat, you're exhausted. It takes, honestly, sometimes a day to recover. So if you're actually getting some maximum effort it might take a day to recover. I mean, on a day I'm deadlifting, if you're going to expect me now to just go right over and to kickbox or spar, I'm going to be affected a little bit. So understanding the time between workouts, I think, is important too.
Yeah, skills always come first. And as a strength coach, it's weird for me to say that because other coaches are always protecting their spot. But you know how I protect my spot in my job as a strength coach? I make sure my athlete wins, my athlete succeeds, and they play their best. And that if that means they're doing their skills training first, and I have to walk back their strength training after to a maintenance, and that's what we got to do, because in the end, it's about the athlete. It's about how they perform on the field, not what their bench press is, not what their deadlift is, unless they're powerlifting, right?
And even those who are listening who aren't necessarily fighters but want to get into shape and they use kickboxing as a form of exercise, at that point, like some of the days that I do in order to, like on my weight training days, a lot of time, I have added bag work at the end just to help with, lowering some of the fat content, getting my cardio in. So I'll lift, and then instead of doing my bag work where I'm doing those hard explosive rounds or my sparring or my pad work, I'm doing my bag work post weight room with more like longevity. Take my time, more as like a cardio burner just to get my strikes in. So I'm still getting my kickboxing in, but I'm not doing it as a full demanding day where I'm expecting myself to do maximum effort in the gym. On those days where I need to spar or anything like that, I make sure I kind of stay out of the weight room, or if I do spar after, I do it with a little bit more gap in between. Well, we didn't do a little cheers and a little celebration that we wanted to do. Or what do they call it? Zoom happy hours.
Zoom happy. Oh gosh, I don't even want to start going on that one again. It's upsetting. Like I was gonna wear some fun socks, Joe. Some fun socks. We could have called it Fun Sock Day on the Zoom happy hour because that's how ridiculous this are.
I can't see your socks, so it's okay. You can lie to us now and say you got some nice socks on.
Yeah, we know how much you like fun socks.
It's not that I like fun socks. It's just a few times Costa has come over to my house and he had holes in his socks, and I was upset.
That never happened once.
I was upset.
Never happened once.
Do not come to my house with holes in your socks. I get upset.
I never have.
Or come with really bad socks. Come with nice socks, especially if you're going to someone's house and you're going to
be stepping around their house.
Wear some nice socks. And I also disagree with people wearing white socks. You should not own white socks. And if you go to someone's house, don't wear white socks.
Yeah, I haven't had white socks in a long time.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, Joe, 100%.
But I think the last point here with you, Costa, and I think with strength and conditioning, we'll end it here. 2 points, and I caught myself saying it, and I put myself into it. Just understanding that strength and conditioning is two different things completely. And everyone just wants to group it together. So understanding that part of being an athlete and a successful one, you have to have good strength, and you have to have good conditioning. And they're trained and worked on two separate ways, two different energy systems, two different ways to improve either side. So just understand that. Do you know
how much I hate these people out there? Okay, general public, fine. But with your training, who do these circuits with like weights and like, oh yeah, look how, they're going around this circuit doing like bench pressing on one, chin-ups on the other, kettlebells on the other. What are you doing? What are you doing? And you're supposed to be training a fighter. What are you training? Like, you can't – they're two different energy systems. Strength and, like, your energy systems are two completely different things. Stop going to the old school, like what were the old school UFC shows where Sean Shirk used to do that? And we're like, oh, yeah, you got to do that nonsense. And then, like, YouTube, they're doing – this is just YouTube. It's just entertainment, guys. Like – I mean, come on. If you're going to lift. If you're going to do conditioning, train an energy system. Stop trying to do some nonsense, Like, we're doing it for purpose. You might as well just put some kickboxing in between there, too. Why not do everything? Like,
what was the line you kept saying? So for those who haven't seen it, I do have a documentary out there. It's called Fighting for Glory, the Joseph Valtellini story.
Heavy.
And it was made by one of our boys, Brian Avellino, who followed us for a couple years and kind of got a really good documentary out. So I highly recommend everyone to watch it. But the one thing was your line in there. You're like something about, you'll say it better than me, something about, what's the point? If you're not in the weight room, it's like hitting someone with a fly swatter. You had a line like that I really like.
Well, it's a little bit different. So it's like, if you're not having any power on your punches, okay, if you're... you can, it's like you said, if you're not having an explosiveness, you can have some pretty good technique, but it's like, you want to hit someone with a fly swatter, you want to hit someone with a brick. You know, what's going
Brick
to
sounds nice.
all coming in at the same speed, okay? But one's a little stronger. What's going to hurt you more, right? It's been a few years since the documentary, so I don't remember it exactly. So I butchered that.
Yeah, and you're not good with re-quoting. Yeah.
Yeah, apparently. I talk quickly. I'm better in practice than I am in just talking, but whatever.
But yeah, and then I just think the importance thing of understanding strength for me, and is just the mindset of when I fought, it was knowing that I did the strength and conditioning with Costa that gave me in-ring confidence, which is crazy. I mean, you could think about it. It's like me knowing, like I used to go to weigh-ins, and the first thing I look at is I check my opponent's legs out. I was like, that guy can't deadlift and squat what I can. He's the fly swatter. I'm the brick, you know? Like, that's the first thing I look at. I'm like, if he's got small legs, little glutes, you know, no hamstrings, I was like, where's he going to get that power from? He might be as technical as me, right? He's probably maybe more. I won't say that, but because he has 100 professional fights, but me knowing that I could pull 500 pounds off the ground, I could squat like 400 pounds, me knowing that, and my legs were bigger, and I knew that power came from the ground and generation from the legs, and I knew my legs and my hip strength was, you know, the best in the world. That gave me the confidence that I knew I'd be able to low kick and smash them. So strength and conditioning for mindset in my career was, you know, pivotal. It was so important.
I bet you he could hit a fastball though, Joe.
Yeah, maybe. I'm telling you I can. And until that moment, you guys can say what you want. But I'm still disrespected that you guys think that way of me.
All right. I'm hungry. I got to go.
All right. All right, Koss. Good seeing you, buddy. We'll try to catch up next week.
Always a pleasure.
Take care, Koss.
Later, gents.
All right, so back from New Jersey and another good podcast. Danny, thanks for coming in, and we'll kind of any last things you want to say?
I just want to apologize for all the technical difficulties if it's cutting in and out. I don't know the virtual thing. It's the first time doing this virtual thing, so
it's good. We tried to do it. So the big story of the day was we're trying to get Todd on today. Todd Grisham, my broadcast partner, and we just finished calling fights together. So we'll try to get him on next week or something just to kind of go off on how it was calling fights. He just called the Triple G fight as well. He's on a commentary beast. He literally called Triple G Friday night, took a morning flight, made it over to New Jersey, met me, and we were able to call the Glory fight. So, I mean, just a monster in the world right now of sports commentary. And I think just to pick his brain, he's to me, he's one of the best commentators in the world. I mean, he's done WWE wrestling, Glory Kickboxing, DAZN boxing now, Top Ranked. He's
kind of got that like Moro Ronaldo. Like, there's very few people.
He's number one like for me right now. So to have him on and for him to be one of my best friends, I think it's. And we flow. You know how to talk on broadcast. We've done podcasts in the before. I think we can get some good flow and energy off of that one. So hopefully next week he comes in and we're able to do that. But again, as keep liking, subscribing. Again, Danny says apologizes for the technical difficulties, but as Costa once said, we'll send you a refund. I know we're trying our best. We're working as we go. I want to be able to because of obviously this pandemic. I think a lot of fun would be in getting some other guests that I can call in. I mean, I have connections to so many different UFC fighters and coaches and just thinking of the podcast, to be honest, where the direction I kind of want to go, I feel is that whole of education and building the herding bombs of understanding. Right. So to me, I'm more intrigued by maybe more coaches, managers, leaders in the field. Not to disrespect fighters or anything, but a fighter to me now, it's like you're in that one mindset. And it can be, you know, they're used to being asked questions. It's more about conversation and education more than interviews with people. Right. So I want to educate, you know, the Bazooka listeners and the channel listeners rather than hear like what's next for a fighter, like, and what their game plan is. I just want to more educate people on how to game plan rather than what his game plan is or how they game plan it. So I have some interesting people that I think once we get these technical difficulties sorted out, we can have some wicked conversations.
Well, I think that's important. There was one thing I wanted to bring up today. We don't have time, so maybe we'll bring it up next time. But it is definitely talking about like the importance of a coach and things like that. I know Glory fighter Asa Tempao recently shared something about that. and about the importance of coach and how some of them might feel disrespected a lot of times, or they feel underappreciated and all that kind of stuff. So maybe we could shine some light on that now that you went from being a world champion to now coaching, you know, some of the best people in the world.
That even happened. Cedric Doumbé this past weekend doesn't have a coach. Nordine Mahadine, who is in is in that heavyweight tournament, also doesn't have a coach. But I think the idea of having a coach is important. Even me, who's been part of now martial arts teaching and coaching for now 31 years, if I want to compete, you need someone. You just can't think about it. You need to have someone to dictate it. You could work together. I would want to talk to my coach and be like, okay, this is where I think the direction should go. But during a training session, you should not have to think, what are you going to do next? Is the timer on? How long should we do the drill? You need your coach to just kind of tell you as things goes. Once you try, doing it on your own, it becomes complicated. But I always talk about too, for example, the MMA world, sometimes you have too many coaches. It's okay to have a team, but you always need the one head coach. And I think that's important because you need that one person to direct everything about, okay, this is what you're going to say in the corner. This is when we say it. Okay, now even in a training session, I'm going to do the warm-up. I want you 10 minutes on this way. You drill that. You need the person to conduct the training camp, and I think that's important. And I think when you're able to kind of have that person and you have to trust that person, I think it goes a long way. And I think that's who Costa was in my camp. Costa was the one to manage everything. And I always talk about him being so great at understanding programming and periodization to allow me to peak on fight night. And that's the key, right? Peaking on the fight night. And that's where all the science and everything comes to. So for him, the trust, when he told me, Joe, you need a rest day, I took a rest day. All right, Joe, we need to add another day of kickboxing. I added it. So having that person that you can talk to, that you can trust, I think is very important in a career. It's just that confidence building. My big thing is when I first got signed to Glory, they offered me Glory 5, and it was supposed to be Paul Daly. Glory 5. And I knew Paul Daly's name. I knew how good he was. And I looked at my coach and I said, can I beat him? And he said, yeah. I was like, all right, let's do it. All it took was the trust in my coach and able to say yes to take the fight. And then when they said, no, Glory 6, you're going to fight Murat Derechi in Turkey. Same question. Can I beat him? Coach looked at it. Paul looked at it for a couple seconds and said, yep. Next thing you know, boom. I said, yeah, and I'm confident, and I know I'm going to continue through my camp knowing that I'm going to knock this guy out. So knowing from my team, knowing that I had that mentality of strength and conditioning through Costa and the heavy lifting, I think that whole type of confidence just transferred well come fight day. So, yes, I really think it's important.
They take a lot of the thinking out of the fight game for you, so you can focus on your training.
You can't think. Yeah. You could be maybe Asa Tempao and all these other guys, have these high-level coaches and stuff like that, but you also have to trust your coach. Asa Tempao is a successful coach now. He runs a big gym. He's fought at the world's highest levels. So now he has that information, but when he's in fight time, when he's in camp, he can't be thinking of these things. Yeah. So this is where if he does have a coach, or if I were to bring in a coach now for myself, I would really have to make sure I sit there and plan with them. Because I don't want to change too many things because I have my own input and understanding on fighting. So it was kind of, let's work together. Maybe we do a weekly plan, a monthly plan, an 8-week plan, whatever it is, but then that person just conducts the plan. But I think you need that person to manage everything for you.
Well, I think the last UFC, I believe Tony Ferguson is coachless, or he didn't have a coach.
Yeah.
Which is like crazy to think that, he just came off a title fight without a coach, which is just crazy, right? And so
Mike Perry was the same guy trying to go in, bringing his girlfriend in.
Yeah, bring his girlfriend in, and then
it's a popular
money
thing
for people, or people have to pay him to be in his corner or something like that. And it's just crazy to see that the coach's position has taken such a, I don't know, an underappreciated role, if you will, in the fight game nowadays.
Because I can see now why. Okay, so if you're working with someone for years and years, it's easy to say, okay, this is my coach. This is the percentage I'm giving them of my purse. But the issue is now, say you've been with a coach for 10 years. Yeah. Next thing you know, you guys have a little falling out. It's really hard just to get someone now that you trust to be thrown into that position too. Like, That's insane just to trust someone in that way. I mean, that's just hard. And then give them a percent of your purse at the highest level. Like Ferguson's got to be making good money. Yeah. He's just going to bring in a random coach and just offer him money in that position of prestige to be in all of that high level status fights. I mean, that person you bring in is someone you want to know, like, it took me 10 years of fighting to get here. I want my team that's with me to reflect that. So I think it's tough when you get to that level to just give someone so much just to be that head coach. Yeah. But I think it's important. I think it's necessary. And I think in order to be, you know, I mean, there's the exceptions, like we're talking about the Doumbés and those things. But I think in the long run, he'll really. But
he's like that small percentage of people.
Yeah, and he's been kickboxing for so long. He understands it. But now if he's interested in maybe switching and doing MMA, he's going to need coaches. And I think at the end of the day, you need a team, regardless if it's a coach or not. But I still think there has to be someone on the team that manages the schedule and the training session. It can't be done by the athlete themselves.
And give me 5 more minutes, Joe.
Yes,
let's just quickly break down this UFC card, this last UFC. Carlos Oliveira. Big deal? Is he the real deal?
I think so. I mean, I've been a big fan of his for years, just because he can do both, man.
When he was new, he was known for that guy who like had that hard kick, and this gym is known for its kicks. And I remember like, oh, this guy has hard kicks. I like this guy already. Yeah. And I heard that he broke his coach's forearm holding pads just from kicks. I was like, this is my guy. I like this guy.
Yeah. I mean, he's good. I mean, he can do it all. And I think he's a real example of a mixed martial artist that can fight everywhere. Yeah. He'll choke you out and he'll knock you out. I mean, he's fun to watch. Yeah. He's experienced. I mean, I think he's the real deal, man. And I think he looked great. And I would almost put him up there is hopefully for another shot soon. I know he's been calling out the winner of Conor and Poirier, which would be a fantastic fight.
Be really good.
But those are the types of fight I think he needs, he deserves. I feel he's a company man for the UFC who's done a lot for them, who's actually, you know, never said no to things, has worked his way up. So I think he's a guy that kind of deserves that. But that fight card, I got to bring up my boys, Rob Font.
Rob Font,
my boy Rob Font. So Bazooka here, we got a nice close connection with the New England cartel. We actually had Kelvin Cater come train here at Bazooka with me, his coach Tyson and his manager.
A big fight coming up.
That's who, honestly, I mean, that's one person I'm going to bring on the channel. It's the manager and coach of Rob Font and Kelvin Cater, Tyson Chartier. We've become good friends and kind of going back and forth, helping each other. I mean, he's helped me a little bit with Malcolm. I help a little bit with Kelvin. So we keep a good connection. So that's someone I'd like to bring on and to discuss the coaching, the managing side of that level. That would be a phenomenal one. But Rob Font came in, knee surgery, recovery, comes in, and to beat Marias the way he did, woo. Ooh. And I mean, Rob Font, Kelvin Cater, it's their long, straight punches, man. See that jab Rob threw?
Yeah.
Rob's a beast. He's an animal. I mean, their boxing levels.
What a crazy team.
They trained with Mickey Ward in Boston together. Really? So that long jab of that whole team is phenomenal. Yeah. And even when you watch Kelvin fight, he almost does it with his jab, but more with his right hand. He'll hit you with his right hand, and then you think that's his distance, and then boom, he lengthens the strike and he cracks you because he'll like make the strike like 5 or 6 inches longer. And that's what Rob does with his jab. So you never know the range and the length of their technique, and then boom, he finishes you like that. But
that team has got some crazy potential.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So again, Tyson, we're gonna get you on here, buddy, because I think it'll be a great conversation.
And I mean, he's fighting Holloway next time. I'm talking about Cater.
Yeah, maybe before that fight, we'll get Tyson and we'll ask him on.
Because Holloway is a beast.
Yeah, honestly, I'm telling you, put your money on Kelvin. Put that money on Kelvin.
I'm gonna go on Kelvin. I love Holloway though. I'm a huge Holloway fan. So you know, I don't want to bet against him, but you know, I think Kelvin's got it. I think Kelvin's the up and comer. I think he's got the power to deal with Holloway. Holloway's scrappy though. He's gonna stand there. He's gonna scrap with him, and it's gonna be one heck of a fight.
Yeah, I'm really. That's my fight I'm most excited for, hands down.
Yeah, me too.
Hands down. Doesn't get more exciting. The only other fight right now that could get me excited would be like I like watching Francis Ngannou.
Everyone loves watching.
But it'd have to be Ngannou versus John Jones. Ooh, that would be the only one outside of Kelvin fighting now that I get super excited for. So
okay, let's make a quick prediction on that because you brought that up. Ngannou versus John Jones. Can John Jones beat Ngannou?
Can he? Yes. Will he? I don't know. Ooh. I think Ngannou's going to be heavyweight champion.
I agree.
he'll beat Stipe in my eyes, and I think
so.
he will not be beat for a long time.
Really?
Who's going to beat him in heavyweight?
Well, Stipe already beat him once.
Yeah, before he knew anything about the ground or fighting. I just think he's a different level now.
I think he will be champion. I agree with you on that because I think he's going to touch the champion, and that's it.
Once he touches you, you're out.
Lights
too
out.
big, too strong, too powerful, too aggressive, too raw where he's learning so much every day still.
And he knows.
Guy's a monster.
Yeah, and
too
he's got
big.
that confidence, like, I'm going to kill you when he walks in there.
I mean, I think he's going to be the one to do it, man.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe you're right. But that's a good one. And how good was it to watch Jose Aldo kick again?
Yep. To see him finally kick and put things in combination. See how damaging his kicks were?
Oh, my God.
Aldo stresses me out from being the best low kicker in the world to not kicking at all and only boxing.
And he fell in love with boxing.
Yeah. But he was back to his old school power combinations. Did you see the one cross hook, low kick, boom, swiping legs
and
out.
And it opened up his boxing.
Yep.
Once you feel that power of that kick, it opened up his boxing, and I'm so glad to see Aldo back.
Yeah, and he's calling big fights. He wants TJ Dillashaw return. I think he deserves it. Good fight. I mean, you would think Aldo's a lot older than he actually is. I just think he's a man who's been through so many wars, tough upbringing, long career. He looks older than he is. So I think he's got a couple good fights in him. And if he continues to fight with that power and the confidence and the way he looked, I mean, he can get another title shot probably soon.
Yeah.
Beast.
And when it comes to the main event, let's talk about Stephen Thompson really quickly because I know you made a controversial video about how to beat Stephen Thompson. I mean, technically, you beat somebody like him. So, come on, give the man credit. He beat someone like him in Raymond Daniels, right? So, Stephen Thompson, first of all, how can you not like that guy? The nicest guy in the world. He makes me laugh how nice he is. I love Stephen Thompson. I'm a great fan of him. What do you think he's got next? Do you think were you impressed by that performance? Do you think he has what it takes to then push on to someone like Jorge Masvidal or Colby Covington?
I think he's a tough fight for anyone. I think that's his style because he's a good distance control, knows how to move, hit on angles. I just think whoever he fights, it's difficult. Yeah. I mean, ideally, you need to wrestle him. When Woodley was the champ, it wasn't an exciting fight because it's really difficult to go in. And if you just rush in against Wonderboy, you're going to get knocked out.
Yeah.
So, and then when you go to try to hit him, he's gone. Or then he hits you and he's on another angle. You know, he's very difficult to touch and hit. So, I mean, I think whether you're a phenomenal wrestler, and that's the problem with the welterweight division. The welterweight division at the top, you have to be able to wrestle really well. If you're going to get past the Colby Covington, a Kamaru Usman, you better be able to grapple, and you got to grapple at a high level. And I mean, I just think Wonderboy with those guys are able to keep range and move. Will he be the champ? I can't really see it, but I also know that whoever he fights, whether it's Kamaru or Colby, he's going to be in a tough. It's not going to be an easy fight. And I know he wants Masvidal, a rematch with Masvidal. So, I mean, either way, I think in the top 5, he gives everybody problems.
And I think his top 5 are pretty aggressive fighters. All of them are pretty aggressive.
Yeah. You have to close distance. If you're going to play a game with him where, you're going to hit and move, no, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
You got to close distance with confidence, and when you do, you got to try to capitalize on it.
But Stephen Thompson fights well against those people. He's so good at sticking and moving, whereas Woodley he might have spurts of it, but for the most part, he plays with his back against the cage.
Yeah.
And Thompson's not a forward-pushing.
No, they both want to counter, right?
They both want to counter. So I think
fight.
It does make sense, Thompson fighting these top guys. He has that opportunity and that chance to beat him simply because these guys love to come forward.
Yeah.
And Thompson is great at those counter kicks.
But the problem is, if you don't go forward against Thompson, it's
it becomes a dancing match.
It becomes a boring dancing match.
It becomes a boring dancing match, yeah.
But the problem is, you can't just, this is what I try to say, you can't just go forward on him. You got to go forward intelligently with a system and a style. So, I mean, a lot of people will say, well, the high guard doesn't work. But I mean, you might use it for a second. There's different ways of closing distance safely to be able to do it. You can't, you're not going to do what Jose Aldo did to Conor McGregor. You're just not going to throw from a distance. You're going to get caught because he's exiting and he's going to counter you as you're coming in. Yeah. That's the whole beauty of, that point karate style. So the difference is you got to close distance, and then when you close distance, you strike, or try to initiate a quick clinch where you can touch him first and then try to attack off of that, or try to chop the legs from outside. But even chopping legs, he throws that counter rear straight right at you all the time. So, I mean, you might throw it, but boom, and then he sits on a quick punch. So I just think he's an experienced fighter. He's 38 years old, been doing martial arts since he was born. It ain't going to be an easy man to beat. So
what would you do? What would you have done different with Jeff Neal's game plan? Because Jeff Neal clearly came up with the high guard, coming in, looking to box and try to close the distance with, like, maybe hit him with an overhand right or something. It looked like he was coming with a boxing-centric type of plan, high guard, take a hit.
But he was chopping the legs a bit.
He was chopping
but he just wasn't getting enough damage.
But he wasn't getting enough damage. What would you have done differently in Jeff Neal's?
Just more probably putting things in sequence together. Like, I mean, if you're going to get inside and try to throw ones, you got to kind of use a little bit of cage control and then just try to attack more in combination. I find is a good one. I mean, if you're going to fight these guys and try to throw a single shot.
Tougher to do in MMA.
Yeah.
On Raw.
But, I mean, that's where fight warrior spirit is against a guy like that, man. Like, if you're going to sit there and try to play a single point with someone like that, it's difficult. Yeah. It's like my fight with Raymond Daniels. If I fought Raymond Daniels and just tried to play a single point game, the guy's going to hit and move. I'm going to be chasing him the whole fight. So you have to, at one point, to know that if I'm going to close in, I'm going to get hit once, but I'm going to counter his counter. You know, I have to go in. I'm going to eat a shot, but the shot I'm going to give after, I'm going to hit him with two that are good, powerful, and then hope for something like that. But you can't just sit there on the outside and expect to get a single shot and to win a fight like that. You're going to have to, one, try to clinch up, grab, hit him on exits, or counter the counter. But like I said, easier said than done. It takes a special, striker on the feet. And I mean, that's where I think someone like an Adesanya comes into play, where I think to beat someone like Adesanya, I really, really feel you have to be a really good striker. You got to beat him. You have to be a very good wrestler, but it's still hard to close the distance on someone like that. Same thing with Wonder Boy. So in order to beat these kind of guys, you have to be a specialist in stand-up striking. This is what I think. I mean, I'm sure wrestlers will be like, well, the opposite style works. But I mean, well, look at Izzy. Like, we've had wrestlers go against them, maybe not the best of the best, but they still couldn't have any chance taking him down.
Yeah.
So I think you have to have a good striker. Like, who beat Wonder Boy Thompson? Pettis knocked him out because he's a competent striker, being able to sit there and give out those big shots. So, I mean, it's tough. It's not easy, especially with the 4-ounce glove. I mean, one little quick touch on the chin, you're going out, you're getting knocked out. So the risk is there, but I just think it's important that to fight someone like that, it just takes a lot of confidence. It takes a lot of just being okay with getting hit, and a lot of people aren't.
Yeah, you got to be tough.
Yeah, you got to be tough. You got to close the distance.
Because he's so fast. He's so fast and so quick. And I've noticed that he even throws like these little front side uppercuts out of angle. Yeah. Like just boom, and he's out.
Even his footwork, boom, boom, hits, steps out, creates an angle, then he's gone. Yeah, very well done. Yeah. The guy's, definitely a true martial artist and deserves all the credit.
Yeah, but yeah.
So maybe I shouldn't have done the video how to beat Stephen Wonder.
I mean, I think you're trying to give off the idea of how do you beat someone
with that style,
with that type of style, that karate style that's unorthodox, right?
But again,
people want to
Pettis, Anthony Pettis said he watched my video, just before, on the way to the arena to fight Wonder Boy Thompson, and he said, "I'm the man who gave him the strategy on how to beat him." So, the videos there, videos to work.
Shout out to Pettis too.
Yeah.
What a win!
Yeah, another OG guy, and I mean, I heard he's a free agent now, so it's exciting to see where he's gonna go.
Yeah.
But, I mean, just Wonder Boy. I like him. I think he's great for the sport. Yeah. He's a good energy. But, yeah, I still would fight him, and I still would beat him.
That would be great.
Yeah. That would definitely be one fight in the UFC that I would be interested in.
That would actually make an excellent fight. An MMA rules, you versus Stephen Thompson.
Yeah, that would be the fight that I would really, really like. He's sitting at top of the world, if they want to make it happen. But that would be, if someone were to ask me, pick one fight you'd want, that would probably be it.
I'd love to see that fight. That would be amazing.
Yeah, me too.
Cool.
Well, all right, Danny. The gym is freezing. I don't know why. Something's going on with the heat here. So if I get a little stuffed up, it's not COVID. It's the cold here.
And we're social distance.
And we're social distance, and I'm freezing. But, no. Thanks, Danny. Again, I hope everyone likes the episode. Again, hopefully the technical difficulties don't show up. And keep liking, subscribing. The episodes are doing great, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.